What celebrity did bad things but everyone forgot what they did because they're famous? Boy George. He beat a guy with a metal chain after cuffing him to a radiator. Should make for an interesting sequence in his forthcoming biopic. Oh god yeah. I'm guilty of forgetting all about that. Steven Tyler became the guardian for a 16-year-old he was dating when he was 25 so he could bring her on tour, knocked her up too. NBA Hall of Famer Karl Malone raped a 13-year-old. Edit, better choice of words. In my country there is a TV host that killed several people in a car accident. Twice. It was his fault both times. You can still see him on TV. Tom Cruise is the celebrity face for a massive cult that kidnaps, rapes, and is likely involved in human trafficking and child marriages. The cult that outlawed the ducking IRS. But yeah, Mission Impossible was cool I guess. It's honestly so terrifying. If anyone wants to look this up, look up Leah Remini. She openly talks about what happened while she was in the cult and actually has stories of Tom Cruise and being a celebrity in Scientology. Rick James kidnapped 2 women with his wife while on separate crack binges. Charlie Sheen once had unprotected sex with his girlfriends, plural, when he has HIV. Is no one gonna mention Caitlyn Jenner hitting that pregnant woman and forcing her into traffic? Then getting the Woman of the Year award? I guess I remembered that wrong. Turns out it was an elderly woman. And the woman died when she was hit by a Hummer. Also, remember that Brendan Schaub the millionaire podcaster comedian spit in someone's face and then threw them through a sliding glass door because they asked him to stop eating his food? Look into it. Mark Wahlberg beat and blinded a Vietnamese guy just because he was Vietnamese. I can't believe it took me this long scrolling to find this. He's making millions off the Transformers films and everyone conveniently has forgotten that he committed a hate crime. Jared Leto's been accused of rape by half a dozen 13-15 years old girls. He kinda comes off a bit as a tool. Kinda acts douche-ish and arrogant. I have heard that before though. A bit. He comes off as a gigantic, huge, massive, solar ducking douchebag. I guess Noon's really forgotten. But Roman Polanski's still getting awards and standing ovations for his films. Something interesting I read once, and I could be wrong, is that a lot of the people, including the celebrities, who support him thought it was just great because she was 13. And that if she were say 18 it wouldn't have been. Not understanding that it would have been great no matter how old she was. Emma Roberts beat the shit out of her then boyfriend Evan Peters. Then continued to co-star in the same show as him. I was looking for this. She left Evan Peters with a bloody nose and bite marks after some people called the cops on them when they had a fight in their hotel room in Canada. I'm saying this as a woman. It says a lot about how obvious the abuse is that when the cops turn up to a domestic violence case and arrest the woman instead of the man. They continued to date until early this year. Maybe she changed, but if I'm completely honest, I just feel relieved on Evan Peters' behalf. Sean Penn beat the duck out of Madonna. Edit, replies are a mix of that never happened and she deserved it. Yikes. A lot to unpack here. Kind strange airiness. When it was rumored that they were getting back together a few years ago. So many Hollywood news sites and magazines were all AWW. That's so sweet. Meanwhile, I'm sitting over here going, how can you think that a woman possibly going back to the man who tied her to a chair and assaulted her with a ducking baseball bat for 8-9 hours is a good thing? Chris Brown and R. Kelly. Chris should have lost his career for what he did. Right? I can't believe people still support him and other artists still want to work with him. Duck Lil Dicky. I really liked him as an artist, then he basically made a song about how great Chris Brown is. Seriously? Ryan Reynolds did Green Lantern. And Big Dick has sexually assaulted people an absurd amount of times and also got Phil Hartman's wife back into Drew Gus, which led to her murdering Hartman in an intoxicated state. You would think he would have been ruined in the Me Too movement. But apparently we pass it off like that's classic and Big Dick. Edit. To those saying Andy Big Dick doesn't really get a pass because everyone hates him. He's not in prison, which is where anyone else would end up for doing half the things he did. So I'd call that a huge pass. Piers Morgan was the editor of the Daily Mirror during the Iraq War. Published photos that he knew were fake of American and British troops abusing Iraqi prisoners. He was fired but somehow managed to make a successful media career out of it. Natalie Wood was probably murdered by Robert Wagner and witnessed by Christopher Walken. Tom Allen got caught in an airport with £1.50 of coke and gave up his connections, so he only did 3 years instead of life. John Lennon beat his wife. He yelled in his son's ear so loudly that he's now deaf in it. A child. Brick killed a guy with a trident. George Wallace, the infamous pro-segregation governor of Alabama in the 60s, did not inform his wife that her doctor diagnosed her with cancer. Doctors during this time often told patients' relatives of their cancer diagnosis instead of the patient, especially if the patient was female. The reason was that she was running for governor as a surrogate for him since he had reached his term limits, and he thought that the diagnosis would negatively affect her chances of winning. She ended up finding out about it 4 years later during a visit to a gynecologist. But unfortunately the cancer had progressed to the point that she died from it 3 years after learning that she had cancer and that her husband had known about it. He ended up successfully getting the term limits repealed and went on to serve a few more terms as governor. People forget about this, I'm assuming, because of all of the other shitty things he did. Edit. Her name was Lillian Wallace. For those interested. Dr. Seuss was having an affair while his wife was battling depression and cancer. When she committed suicide, she left him a note that said, "What has happened to us? I don't know. I feel myself in a spiral. Going down, down, down. Into a black hole from which there is no escape. No brightness. And loud in my ears from every side I hear. Failure. 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 I love you so much. I am too old and enmeshed in everything you do and are, that I cannot conceive of life without you. My going will leave quite a rumor, but you can say I was overworked and overwrought. Your reputation with your friends and fans will not be harmed. Sometimes think of the fun we had all through the years." Cole Malone got a 13-year-old pregnant and refused to take care of that child. I think you'll know the song Despacito, who is performed by Luis Fonsi. Well, this little piece of shit was married to a beautiful woman who had breast cancer. During her entire process of chemo he wasn't there, and he even told her, when she had a breast removed, that he didn't want her as a woman. This ended up in a divorce. Jerry Seinfeld dated a 17-year-old girl in high school when he was 39 years old. Steven Tyler was a serial rapist in the 70s and 80s. Now he's an old woman. Mr. Rogers once went on TV with a pulled stitch in his cardigan. There was that time James Franco tried to duck a teenager after she posted the exchange on social media of her telling him how old she was and him not caring and still wanting to see her. All he had to do was go on a few morning talk shows a couple days later and say, "You don't always know who you're talking to online." And everyone instantly forgot about it. He framed it like he was the one who was deceived and people just let it slide, even though that clearly wasn't the case. Woody Allen. There is a lot of creepy stuff associated with him. Easy to find if you search a little. It also seems like there is a lot of silence over Harvey Weinstein stuff as well. Coco Chanel was a Nazi. Tyler Tequila is a Nazi. Can we have a reverse thread? Which celebrity has a clean background? Basically every rock star from earlier than the mid 80s has been confirmed to have had ducked a minor or two. Dozen. Just read up on any of them. They are all pretty ducking terrible. Creed Bratton has been a leader and a follower of numerous cults. Marcos Alonzo, football player for Chelsea FC, was driving drunk and killed a 22-year-old woman. Driving 70 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone with an alcohol level of 0.93 milligrams. His final punishment was a $67,000 fine and a driving ban of 40 months. Edit, since this is being misinterpreted. He was driving drunk and crashed into a stone wall. The woman who was killed was his girlfriend who was a passenger in his car. There's a soccer player in Brazil who killed his wife. Quartered her body and gave it to dogs eat. To make it harder to police found out. He went to jail for a few years and now he is paying again and making tons of money again like nothing happened. Edit, okay, he is not making a ton of money. What I meant is that he's probably gonna have a pretty comfortable life and have his career back. Also, the woman wasn't his wife. It was his mistress, but they have a children together and still. She was a person. His name is Bruno Fernandes de Souza. John Hamm led a fraternity pledge around the house by a claw hammer around his testicles while other frat members beat him so hard his spine was fractured and he nearly lost a kidney. Hamm later referred to it as a bummer of a thing that happened. I hate this. Not just because he hurt someone, but because it was so humiliating and shows an utter disregard for other people. I sneezed once and Tom Hanks only said bless you, not God bless you. Rick James. He and his girlfriend literally kidnapped someone and burned them with their crack pipe and sexually assisted her. But people just want to go Rick James-ish. Edit, sexually assaulted not assisted, haha. Paul Walker was having sex with underage girls that were half his age. After news of the actor's death broke, the Daily Mail and In Touch Weekly, InTouchWeekly.com both ran features of how Walker's current girlfriend, Jasmine Pilchard Gosnell, was coping with her loss. Both of them noted that the pair began a relationship while she was 16 and he was 33. And before Pilchard Gosnell, Walker had dated another woman, Aubrianna Atwell, while she was allegedly 16 as well. Jalopnik.com, Studebrieks.com. And since there are so many statutory grape apologists in the comments, here's some clarifying legal info that what he did was 100% a felony. Both times. https://www.schauserlaw.com/statutory_grape.html